if we keep this our mindset into a this growing, this learning, this thirst to learn,
Mhm.
and understanding all the limitations and opportunities that bring with it, I believe you have I believe you can change the world. That's all I want to do. I want to. Boy Scout motto, part of the Boy Scouts is leave the place a little cleaner than when I first got here.
This podcast is brought to you by ISU Corp. Are you having trouble with your software projects? Is there a project that's taking too long or a technology you can't handle? We can help. We are ISU Corp, experts in custom software since 2005. With almost 20 years of experience, we can solve any technical problem from new businesses to satellite software. We've done it all. Let us turn your ideas into reality. Learn more about how we can help by visiting us at www.isucorp.ca. Your solution starts here.
Hello, and welcome to the Leaders in Tech podcast, where we're shining the light on people that are changing the world by leading technology people and making things better for this world. It looks like everything is going very dark, but if you go deep inside many corporations, there is mighty warriors, leaders in technology that are really hoping for the best and creating the best. Today we have with us Earl Dodd again. Errol, it's a pleasure to have you again in the show.
Thank you very much, David.
Errol, I must apologize. There is some construction outside. My studio is very well protected, but if there is any background noise, my apologies to you and the audience.
No problem. Glad to be here. I'm honored that you allowed me to return. I'm glad to be a warrior. I've been called many things, but a warrior is near and dear to my heart.
For sure. And it's really about it's really a constant fight against good and evil, right? And if you are willing to do good, then you instantly become a warrior against evil. And this is what we're living at these days. And it's very obvious. You can see it in the news, in the media, everywhere. We just had an assassination attempt to a 45, President Trump, right?
Yes. One of the things that struck me when we were just introducing, I was just on, speaking of warriors, I was just on with speaking with some U.S. Army Department of Defense, and we talk a lot about force multipliers in the military, and what I think you're doing is trying to be a force multiplier out there against this good versus evil. And I'd like to add a kind of a third category in between those that are ambivalent, the lethargy, apathy. I see a lot of apathy right now, even in technology. I see apathy, and it's not good, it's not bad, but it sides with that bad. Because lethargy, you get left back. If you're looking at from a cybersecurity perspective, like I do on some things, well, you create injection vectors and holes in systems and things like that. So my grandma taught me that if you're green, you're growing. If you're ripe, you're rotten. So even as old as I am, I'm green and growing.
And that's what a beautiful wisdom. Nothing stays the same in this world. Decay is built in the planet, right? Right after the fall of Adam and Eve, the Lord condemned the planet to be a rotten place.
Yeah.
There is circles of life. so that you never stays the same. This is actually a natural law. You can see it. If you don't paint your house, eventually it's going to get horrible, right?
Well, and technology is the same way, whether it's in a hardware, software, or middleware. It becomes, even if left alone, it becomes either an injection vector for bad, through malware, or it becomes legacy and using up too much power to do the amount of work that it needs to do. I'm not saying that everybody has to go out and refresh every 24 hours. It's just that if we keep our mindset into this growing, this learning, this thirst to learn, and understanding all the limitations and opportunities that bring with it, I believe you have I believe you can change the world. That's all I want to do. I want to. Boy Scout motto, part of the Boy Scouts is leave the place a little cleaner than when I first got here.
For sure, and that's the mindset of a warrior and a leader. And right? Like, you have enough intelligence to know that if you're not moving forward, you're not staying still. You're moving backward. Like your grandma said.
I use that with my leadership team once in a while too. One of the, it just reminded me, one of the craziest instances I've been in. I was really young in my career. Yes, it was this last century, but it wasn't, the 18th century, as I tell my kids. But walked into a board meeting. I was sitting on the side, and a gentleman, the CEO, basically, he had his senior leadership there, the board of directors were there, and he handed everybody a gift. And I thought, oh, geez, that's John. That's really nice. His name is John Rollwagon, CEO of Cray Research then. And John hands this out. Everybody's like, what's this, John? It's great. So they untie it and they open it up, and they're looking at it really strange. And they're holding this thing up, and it was a mirror. It was a mirror. Yeah, it gave everybody a little mirror. And then just on cue, it was like, he goes, now I want you to look in here and see where the problem lies. Oh, deafening silence in the room. And that was a huge leadership lesson for me, that, well, sometimes you can get too big for your britches. You can sit on your laurels. Things may be up and going great, and you take the real management and leadership principles 101 and you forget them. And if you are not reinventing yourself, if you're not looking at what the future is going to be holding in 5, 10, and 20 years, if you're not building out that plan, you may not survive in this world today, this digital transformation that's going on. And that's why I say you got to be green so you can stay growing.
It's beautiful. It reminds me of the chapter 1 of the book of Psalms. It says that if we are planted by rivers, if we are like trees planted by rivers, we will grow evergreen, and we will always produce fruit.
Yeah.
And the requirement is to meditate in the Word of God, which means we're going to create critical thinking, but we're going to grow, we're going to focus on positively impact this world with the tools that have been given to us, with an ever constant learning and achieving mindset, right?
I agree with that. I'm going to challenge you a little bit here. I hope you don't mind, but this will probably come out in a patent here, but pretty soon. But I am a big fan of critical thinking skills. I believe that they've been forgotten left out in school systems today. We used to learn that. We used to learn civics. We used to, yeah, okay, I remember diving underneath the desk because of nuclear fallout. But we Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, that was okay to have 10 Commandments on the wall. All of those kind of things. Right now, what I believe we need critical thinking, and the other side of the coin is critical ignorance. And by what I mean by that is not being ignorant or an ignoramus, but to be able to sift through the stuff, the bias, the unworthy. There's a good piece of detail. There's a good amount of energy that's required to only focus on the piece that you need to be doing critical thinking on. So how do you sift through all of this stuff on the internet everywhere, that the vendors are coming to me with, this is new, this is better, this has a shinier knob than that one. But how do you sift through that? How do you ignore the irrelevant to focus on the relevant? And that's been one of my focuses here lately.
And that's what the information age brought to us. I mean, everything has a good side and a bad side. We are flooded with information in a way that is getting harder and harder to discern what's true and what's a lie, or what's half truth, or what, even if it's all truth, what is actually applicable for my life to advance me in my career, in my, as a father, as a leader in the community.
Yes.
Right? It's not easy.
It isn't. It's harder now, and soon we'll be chipped up, and it may even be harder. But one of the things I learned as an engineer is always go back to first principles. Always go back. What is fundamental? Whether it's troubleshooting for root cause, or looking at the basis for sales opportunity, or finding the niche in the marketplace to build a product or software or a service, you have to go back to first principles. You have to question, your thinking pattern. You have to question the data and build from there. As they say, if you build your house on sand, and when the flood comes,
goes
you're
away.
not going to be there. So I spent a lot of time. We have a lot of folks on my team, and they say, "Oh, this new RAG model or this new GAN model, AI stuff." Looking at all of this stuff, and I go, "But what are they trying to solve? What's the problem? Is the problem that piece A and piece B don't fit together? Is the problem that there's a miscommunication?" We tend to get hung up on in my world, I'll only speak for my world, we tend to get hung up on the technology, and sometimes forget about the return on that investment, return on that research, return on the capital. I'm with a company that builds interesting filters for life sciences instruments. So they filter out a molecule or things of that nature. Just incredibly precision weaving and building these textiles and these textures to do certain things. And they get hung up on all these bits and pieces around in the technology, and wow, I need a super pod, or I need to do this. And I go, but is that really actually helping the person, with a drip, in an emergency room, or whatever it may be, wherever those filters are? And we tend to lose sight of, at the end of the day, we're here for people. I mean, we're here for the planet. We're here to build a better place. And if we put that back into engineering and science, and I'm not saying people don't do this, but we tend to focus on shiny, I call it the shiny knobs or squirrel or ball or whatever it is, and not really look at the people side. We kind of focus on the tech, the process, but the people. The one beautiful thing about WWT, one of the many things, is it's very much a people company. We just come off of our prayer, our biweekly prayer hour, and it reminds you that we move $20 billion worth of equipment around this planet for a reason. And that reason is to, whether it's helping people with bank accounts or helping people with autonomous driving or simply just keeping the utilities on.
Or helping people filter out molecules that got no.
Or filter those few molecules out. It becomes, and that get the what's happening is, well, now where I get involved is, well, geez, if I can do that, I could filter here. I could do it in the field. What if I could help an EMS, a emergency response unit at the crash site of a very bad crash, and while they're helping people there, that piece of filter, that stitching, could also say, oh, and their blood type is this and whatever. It could instantaneously give a readout because you're building the sensor system into the actual fabric.
How beautiful it is that I was about to ask you what Worldwide Technologies do, again, for our audience that is listening to this or watching this for the first time and they haven't watched the first episode. By the way, people, if you haven't watched the first episode, you gotta go and start there, because it's an amazing, mind-blowing episode. And Worldwide Technologies just described what you guys do, which is incredible. One of the things that amazed me last time you told me is that you guys still privately held, right?
Yeah, we're privately held, minority-owned, faith-based company. It's owned by two gentlemen, and you can go and talk to Dave and Jim. You just, the chairman of the board and the CEO, first name basis. I have their telephone number. Text them. Jim likes soccer, though. He's a big soccer nut. Anyway,
nice.
But I mean, real football. Let's call it real football for the worldwide audience. Okay, and Dave's an African American, rags to riches story. Went to the military, came out, and just, worked hard. They still work hard, and but they never stop looking at, why do we do this? Yes, our mission is to become, the best place to work. Our vision is the best place to work out there, a profitable growth company. Our mission is to be the world's best technology supplier, and also a great place to work for everyone. And we mean it. And yes, do we make mistakes? We all make mistakes, and there's gives and takes. But at the end, I've never seen a company that, like when COVID hit and everything else, we basically marshaled 4 million square feet of integration space to help people around the world do something about this. We were considered a critical resource. We couldn't shut down. We were moving equipment and capabilities across the planet. And frankly, that's awe-inspiring. I kind of got the tinglies, but there's a big responsibility associated with that. And one of the things we joke about once in a while is, we have the Statue of Liberty out there, but people forget about metaphorically, the statue of responsibility.
Yeah.
With great power, with great fortune, with great people, still come the responsibility to deliver on what's being said and done and needed out there. And that's ingrained at WWT. We go through what we call IML, the integrated management and leadership training capability. We do this every year. We go down through trust and humility and all the different steps, whether we've been here 1 year or 30 years.
Incredible. And that's why you have grown so much and so fast.
We have.
Right? Being privately held. Errol, in the last episode, we finished with critical thinking and critical ignorance. And we already started talking about this, but for the audience, can you describe what is your definition of critical thinking?
Wow. So first off is step back, look at the bigger picture, and understand what I call it the construct. Okay, the matrix. What's after the behind the matrix is the construct, and on the construct is what are my goals? What are my the objectives? I need some parameterization to know where what I'm looking for and where I'm going towards. So it starts with systems theory, if you're familiar with systems theory, systems dynamics, and things like that. So I go back into the construct, and then I look for, and I set this up. And then what I do for the critical thinking piece is I put the pieces of data or datum on, metaphorically, of course, on the construct and see how that plays out given the goal function. You feed it, you starve it, kind of thing. So I go and run scenario, and this is not just me, it's the group. We run scenario analysis. We look at, we ask ourselves questions. We're our own ChatGPT, okay? So to speak. We ask ourselves questions. So critical thinking is the process that we use to set up a set of structured questions that we try to minimize, we'll never eliminate, the bias associated with that, to be data-driven to seek an outcome. Whether it's solving a problem, looking at a new market, trying to retrofit slot A into slot B, cannibalizing this product line because this one's going to be growth, those kind of things. So we use critical thinking. It's a process, and most people, not most people, I see a lot of young people taking for granted what the cell phone says, the internet says, the generative AI outcome says. And I'm not saying it's hallucinating all the time, but it is not thinking. That is just acquiring bits of information. It's not thinking. And we lost the ability to think. We tend to use these devices to think for us. And I think we become dependent, tethered too tightly to that. And I'm not saying that, hey, I want to go back to slate boards and chalk and try to keep my diary or my schedule on it, but we've lacked the ability to ask really hard questions.
And also, even if the computing devices and new technology like AI is making things so much easier, if you remove education and critical thinking, eventually humankind will be unable to determine whether the AI is feeding us lies or truth.
Exactly. I mean, I, we have this discussion. Oh, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm a fan of augmented intelligence. I don't know if it's artificial yet. I consider it more augmented, kind of the way Google originally thought about how they claimed this. But we tend to give that outcome from a device like generative AI as much weight as somebody that's been in the industry or has the expertise. And that's not always the case. We're not finding that working well. There are some things where it can do very well. And I don't consider it creativity. I don't believe any of these things are sentient. I don't believe that they will become a live organism. I believe only God can do that for you and give it a soul. But it can help you with creativity. It can stimulate creativity. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't think, and it doesn't give the right answers a lot of times. That's people who just realize that's a statistic. It came out of a statistical method.
Right.
And it has a high degree, it has some degree of confidence, but it's not exact.
And that's the thing. So if you're not prepared, if you are not taught how to think by yourself, what's going to happen, right? Like this is exactly why I wanted to make the second episode, because people, especially kids, are choosing to stay ignorant. They are choosing to not to have
it's
enough,
so easy to be ignorant today. I mean, think about it. When I was a kid, and we would go out, and I'd have to mow the field, or put up hay, feed the cows, calve the cows. They're having calving season and things like that. You learn by doing. You got more hands-on, and more of this stuff has become in the head. It's become not even theoretical, it's virtual. And that doesn't give you the real experience. And what I'm trying to do in another set of activities is bring back the real experiential, adding truly back the haptics into this smell generators, smoke generators, fog generators, all of this stuff back into the learning environment. Because, for example, going to the sea. I mean, some people could say, well, yeah, it's wet and it's salty, and things. But how many people have actually experienced that? I'm not saying I'm going to throw water in your face through haptics, but we not only are we relying on the device and we're not thinking, but we're not getting that experience, that exposure, that to have a visceral response, which creates, a tagging method in the brain for learning. And if you don't have that, then you're not. So Lonergan, I don't know if you've ever read Bernard Lonergan, a Jesuit scholar, just a wonderful man. He died a few years ago. He was the father of insight. I mean, Father Lonergan, okay. and I guess there's a double ontology there, but his whole treatise of being a philosopher was how to get insight. And we tend to flip things around. There's basically the experience, the insight, the judgment. So it kind of goes around the experience. We get the insight, which is then basically you have all the biases and all based on that experience and all the other things that come along with it. You get the quote, aha, the insight from it. Then you make a judgment. Good, bad, left, right, act, run, freeze, whatever, over here. And we tend to flip. We tend to just go, oh, this happens, bad. We miss the middle processing piece. Again, that's where critical thinking comes in here. And these exercises is start adding, at least understanding what's going on, how to develop, build, extract, perform insight, know what your biases are so that you can get a better set of filters on before you go to judgment. Oh, he's red. Right now the red and the blue states and all this other stuff that's going on. People miss that. They go from experience or what they're told to judgment. Not good. You got to have that insight, and that's what Lonergan talked about a lot.
Beautiful, and it's something that we need to instruct in our children.
Absolutely.
Like if you look at my own children, I have 3 kids. My older kid is 34 years old. She still grew up like playing ball on the street. Mm-hmm. She still went into bicycle rides. She still had that experiential learning experience that you're talking about, like but hands-on experience, right? Like we still play with snowballs in the winter and went down the snow hills, tobogganing. My middle kid is 29. He did a little bit of that. My youngest kid, most of her life was video games.
Yeah.
Inside the house and Netflix and thanks to technology. That's the dark side of technology.
Exactly.
Right? And it's only now that she's 25 that is beginning to learn to enjoy what the Lord has made. Now she loves camping. She goes to the wilderness. Yeah. She's learning how to build her own fire and how to build a tent and how to survive. I mean, we're Canadian, we do that, right? But I thank God that in her, now that she's a young adult, she's beginning to realize that life is not all about sitting behind a computer or a TV all day and all night and eating junk food. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Another beauty that WWT has is we have a very strong internship program. So it started, what did Jim say? About 25 years ago. We officially started it about 25 years ago. The company's 33 years old. An intern. So right now we have 220 interns working across many, generally technology focused. But one of the things we do with the interns is take them through the entire life cycle that we go through, from whether it's the marketing and sales to helping integrate and put this together in an integration center, one of the largest integration centers in the world, to test and dev and let them sit in a customer meeting and try to absorb what goes on in the real world. Yes, it's not so much running a bulldozer and making a pile of dirt, which I got to do. I mean, I was a lucky guy. I got to run a bulldozer and mess things up. I mean, I'm a mining engineer. That's what I love doing. But our whole deal is to try to get more rounded people that can communicate and interact with people. We interview interns just as much as we interview employees, because why? Some of those interns are going to become employees.
Yeah.
And so we go through. So this summer we've got 220 of them, folks, and we got a couple on our team working, and it's very nice, sharp people, and they're thirsty to learn how it's done, which is different than in academia. And that's there's a spot that's, you mentioned about children growing up and not learning critical thinking skills and civics and things of that nature. But even when you get to, especially when you get to university, at a university level, they really try to compact you into the degree program.
Mm-hmm.
And I am not convinced that is necessary. Degree programs might be okay, maybe if you want to go off to get your postdoc PhD and become a researcher and stuff like that. But we need more rounded people, rounded in the sense that they've got the soft skills, not only the hard skills, the physics and the math and the computer science, but they got to have a lot of soft skills. And we're missing that right now. I give a talk once in a while with Nick D'Onofrio. He used to be the only executive vice president of IBM Research. He owned IBM Research when I was there. He was my mentor at IBM Research. And Nick and I used to go around and do these innovation talks and everything else. And so when we talk about this whole disconnect of the rounded individual, philosophy is not a bad subject. Yeah, it may be tough and hard, but wouldn't it be nice if we learned logic, especially if now we're trying to figure out how to discern, is this real or not? Or maybe if we're trying to have a civil discourse so we're not shooting presidents, maybe we should learn how to actually do rhetoric or critique and things of that nature. Go back to the Greeks, the ancient Greeks. Not to say they got everything right, but they at least had some really good processes. And we don't teach that in school. In college even.
It's sad. It's actually sad, and you know that one thing that also we keep forgetting in North America is to teach our kids our moral laws. And I'm talking about the 10 Commandments, because if you're gonna have critical thinking, you gotta have a base, and if your moral laws are not there, you're gonna get swayed left, right, and center by doctrines and theologies that are against humankind, against loving your neighbor as you love yourself.
Oh, you're so right on, David. I vote. It just popped in my head. I should ask my son to run a study on this, but it's how many more. What's the word? There's a phrase I'm looking at that they're socially incapable sociopaths. How many more? Forget about the growth in the human population, but I posit the theory that if I normalize the population growth, we have way more sociopaths today that just don't care about anybody else. It's me.
And
which doesn't follow, which they, I assert, do not follow something like a moral law. And it's their law.
And you realize that, again, the dark side of technology, social media has created a generation of sociopathic narcissists.
Yes.
And I can tell you because I was one of them. And I didn't know I became a narcissist when people show me, look at your newsfeed. It was all pictures about me and what I was doing. But that's what social media encourages to do. And if this happens to this old man, imagine a little kid that has no knowledge. And that's why we need to go back to that also. And this latest trend that your truth is your truth, and entonces
yeah.
How can you have critical thinking with that type of thinking? If you think that you are a cat being a human being, or you think you're a Martian, and people are saying, oh, you have to respect this kid because he thinks he's a dog or a cat.
Yeah.
How stupid is that? I mean, what a perfect way to lose a soul if you are teaching your children that type of horrible thinking.
Yeah, you hit on something, this relativism. in this world. You can have your truth, my truth, the other truth, but my truth is better than your truth. There's only one truth, capital T truth, right? And a lot of people are afraid or don't want to be judged by that because, well, they know that they're doing wrong, and a little evil is the same as a big evil. It's an evil. A little sin is a big sin. It's sin. Period. God, no sin.
One of the great advices I got from my mentors is kill the monster while it's little. Because that little evil, if you don't kill it when it's little, it becomes a huge monster that eats you alive and the people around you.
Yeah. That's very true. It's the same way in failure analysis and stuff. You try to, catch the failure soon. Otherwise, it's cascading, and then you get something. A bridge collapses, a door falls out of an airplane, at 37,000 feet. These kind of things. Catastrophic. You get these catastrophic failures in that. I don't want to leave your audience with its doom and gloom. As you started, there's a lot of people like us in the trenches. I'll use the warrior analogy. In the trenches, doing the next right thing. And we need more people like you to be a force multiplier for those people that are doing the next right thing in those trenches. And I'm convinced, I know, I've seen it, where the humility and capacity to learn and the ability to start applying critical thinking is contagious. It happens in my team. Not to say that everybody does it at WWT, but we are being seen as, how can they get so much done? How can they know so much? How can they be authoritative and things like that? And then we just go, like I say, we take them to the side and say, let's go back to first principles, set the construct, lay out the, and do this. And they go, that's not radical. It's not radical at all. It's not evolutionary. It's back to fundamentals. It's back to the way you go back to the foundation of this country, and you got 50-some folks sitting in a room, sitting there trying to write, out a Declaration of Independence and a Constitution. There was a lot of critical thinking going on. Yeah, there was politics and all that stuff, but at the end of the day, they did their very best to think this through. When was the last time we really had that group of folks, that zeitgeist, really working on a problem? And we need that back. And it can be one person, working the problem, but you want to talk about a force multiplier, get 2 or 3 other people. I'm not saying do by committee. Seymour Cray would kill me if I said anything about design by committee. He hated that concept. He said 5 people, he rules. 5 people, total autocracy. But he wanted the 5 best people that did a different thing to help building the world's best supercomputer. And that's what I'm saying. We, United States military and others are finally going back into this, special forces teams, small teams, highly focused, lasered in on them. The same thing happens in business. The same thing happens in technology. It's not designed by a committee, designed by a group of folks. But we have lots of folks that can do lots of these things. So you can be force multipliers of force multipliers.
Amazing. And it's beautiful. And, going back to fundamentals, the 4th of July just happened a few weeks ago. And I was watching a blog, and they said they did an analysis of the founding fathers of the United States of America. 94% of them were Christian, having the 10 Commandments as the foundation of this country. And look at the results. It became the world's leading nation. Right?
Yes. How could it not be? And the problem today is that deterioration or that separation or that distancing from those fundamentals.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so our job is just to reel it back in.
That's correct.
And be a good role model. The best thing I tell my team is just be a good role model.
Mm-hmm.
They may not see it on day one, but people will see it soon.
And you're completely right. And you can tell a lot more by your behavior than by your words.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. What you do speaks so loud, I can't hear what you say.
Exactly. Errol, thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome,
more than 40
sir.
minutes went by again. This was a beautiful conclusion on this beautiful 2-part episode. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Please, thanks, Dave, one of the founders. Give me your credentials again. Where can people go find you if they want to hire your services?
Oh, yeah. So it's wwt.com. And you can find Earl Dodd, EARL DODD, Earl.Dodd at wwt.com.
Beautiful. Errol, thank you so much. God bless you and have a wonderful rest of the week.
God bless you too and all your audiences. Thank you, sir. Bye.
Bye, Errol. Blessings.
Thank you for tuning in to the Leaders in Tech podcast. Check in next week to keep learning how to use technology and leadership to change the game. See you next time.